I'm Dr. Tracy Stecker, and welcome to the Choosing Help podcast. Choosing Help presents conversations about courage, connection, and the transformative power of asking for support. Through candid discussions, expert insights, and real-world stories, this podcast breaks down stigma and opens doors to understanding. Join our community committed to compassion and courage. Because when we choose help, we choose life. I'm Dr. Tracy Stecker, and I'm joined today by Dr. Autumn Gallegos. She's a psychologist at the University of Rochester Medicine and an expert on mind-body interventions for survivors of trauma. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's go ahead and start with just an explanation of what happens to the mind, what happens to the body during trauma.
Yeah, that's an important place to start. Um, One of the primary things that happens for us, and you can put trauma really under an umbrella of stress. When we have any stressful event, the body, the mind learns. So if you learn, for example, that, you know, over there is a den of snakes, you're probably not going to go
Danger.
danger, danger, danger. So you're not going to go back there. So it's stress is really helpful for us to a certain degree
Mhm.
to you know, learn about safety and trust and um our capacity to control in the world, to have
Yeah.
efficacy. Um, when something then gets pushed into this realm of a traumatic event, um, what often happens is that the learning about one's safety in the world and trust in the world and control and efficacy in the world gets really shifted and overgeneralized to a degree where there's often these persistent symptoms that keep recurring, where people really believe that the whole world is unsafe.
Hmm.
They have no control
Hmm.
in to keep themselves safe, for example. And so then that den of snakes that's over there might start to feel like those are
Everywhere. Snakes are everywhere,
yeah,
potentially. And it's that
exactly.
potentially too. Yeah.
Oh yes. And so a lot of times what happens physiologically, we
Hmm.
have what we call the hyperarousal symptoms.
Hmm.
Those end up becoming persistent because there's that sense that uh, your nervous system is sort of overworking. Um,
Right, because you have to be on the lookout.
yeah,
You
so then that
always on call.
hypervigilance,
Hmm.
right? That paying attention. There's also a lot that happens cognitively. And so one example of that is the beliefs that start to happen again about, how safe am I, but a lot of self-blame.
Mm.
So a lot of the folks I've worked with over the years, patients and group participants, and self-blame just is this tremendous hold, has a
Hmm.
tremendous hold on people about what they should have done, what they could have done to prevent this, what we'll call that big T trauma event, right? Those
Yeah.
could have been a car accident, could have been a natural disaster, could have been an interpersonal, a violent experience that really compromised the person's sense of safety in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so an assault happens then,
Yeah.
not just on their mind, but on their body physiologically. They're riled up. They're
Yeah.
on the lookout. They're vigilant. They're ready to respond. And
Mhm.
then also their brain is saying, I'm in danger, potentially.
Mhm.
I have to be on the lookout. And it's my responsibility to see it and to stop it or to prevent it. And
Yeah.
maybe not just for me, but for others as well. So an enormous responsibility.
That's right. And really, the balance really shifts and becomes really unfair to
Yeah.
that person because really, of course, they wish that it would have been different.
Hmm.
That they could have done something different that day or in that moment. And so a lot of magical thinking ends up happening. Well, if I hadn't have turned in that direction,
Hmm.
and that when that happened.
Yeah. Okay, so then the impact of trauma is enormous, obviously, and then some people that impact lasts for a while.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so take us through some of these mind-body interventions. First, why is it important to address both? And then two,
Mhm.
what interventions are there that people could
Mhm.
access?
Mhm. Yeah. So, the reason why I became so interested in mind, body, and mindfulness-based interventions for trauma specifically is that um, it's essentially doing two things at the same time. One is what we call that bottom-up work, where you're really working to regulate the nervous system by the way you're breathing, right? In a meditative practice, we don't necessarily instruct how to breathe. Sometimes you do, and that can be really helpful.
Okay.
Um, but even the focus on the breath itself can help to regulate breathing and breathe in a way that sort of slows the breathing down, which then actually, communicates directly to the heart and which has a lot of implications for, again, our nervous system functioning, but also our cognitive functioning. And so, if in this moment, for example, I'm just paying attention to my breathing and notice the stillness of my body in this space, then I'm really using my senses and using my body as this place to recognize that this moment, this moment, I'm safe.
This moment, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, and I've seen so many folks over the years too, like just learn how to, whether it's even just like physically touching their body and really feeling their body present, right? Because a
Yeah.
trauma experience is going to keep taking you into the past experience. But
Hmm.
really bringing you into the present moment is really helpful. Um, and then it also is top down. So you're working with paying attention to your thoughts. Um, and learning how to just notice that certain unhelpful thoughts have popped into your mind, maybe thoughts that are bringing you into some future moment or past moment. And so you can kind of think of it as a cognitive training,
Hmm.
to just notice what's coming into your awareness.
Hmm.
And again, coming back into this present space where all of your senses are reminding you that again you're safe. You
Hmm.
don't need that reactivity right now. You needed it then.
Yes.
And maybe you'll need it in some future moment.
Hmm.
Don't need it right now.
Right now, you're safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like building this capacity
Hmm.
to build safety in the body. And again, that's where all the reactivity is housed. So
Hmm.
now if your body becomes this safe space,
Hmm.
there's a lot of power to that.
Absolutely. You have
Yeah.
some control over some aspect of
That's
any
right.
situation.
That's
Hmm.
right.
So bottom up is being aware of what's happening physiologically, what your breathing is doing,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's going faster than you're comfortable with, if you have any capacity to slow it down. But just being aware of it is step one. Being aware of maybe that your heart might be pounding a little bit, or maybe you can't even feel your heart, just kind of awareness of what's going on physiologically. Maybe I know people who, well, I might even be one of those people when I'm stressed. I clench my fists and I clench my jaw, and then I just notice I've got some tension, muscular tension somewhere in my body. So noticing physiologically, that's the bottom up, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then top down is the thoughts. What are your thoughts saying to yourself? So no judgment, but starting to be aware of them.
Mm,
If you're saying to yourself, um, I, I'm in danger. There might be a snake over there. Um, being aware of what you're telling yourself, even in the situations where you know you're safe, and maybe even especially in the situations where you know you're safe.
that's right. And so what you're really practicing ultimately is entering into a state of non-reactivity. And so
Okay.
just like you were describing, oh yeah, my heart is racing right now. Well, sometimes if your heart might be racing, it could be racing for a multitude of reasons.
Hmm.
There often becomes a relationship with heart rate increasing, for example, that says something's wrong.
Hmm.
And so it is again this building an awareness that to have more clarity about what is actually going on. And
Right.
you discern that more because what we're doing is we're essentially it's an exposure exercise. You're exposing yourself to the experience of the body to just be
Hmm.
more familiar with it.
Yeah.
You know, if you've had a traumatic event, the last thing you're wanting to do is pay attention to your body. And so there's a lot of avoidance that
Uh,
goes into just trying not to think about things, but then intrusive thoughts show up when you're trying to rest or read a book or just relax.
yeah.
And so again, it's that top down, bottom up communication with oneself to really build the clarity of what is necessary and needed in that moment. There
Okay.
might be times where you actually do need to be reactive, but the majority of our lives
Hmm.
is is often pretty mundane, right? And so there's a lot with trauma that's shadow boxing.
Yeah. Often pretty mundane. I love that.
I remind people of that all the time. Pretty boring.
Most of life is pretty boring, and we can spend a lot of time worrying about
Yes.
events that actually never happen,
Yeah, that's right.
preparing for them and worrying about them. And there is a point to that, and then there's a point to dial it back to,
That's
or at
right.
least be more aware of it and be able to dial it back.
That's exactly right. So it's a building trust in the capacity for your body to return to a state of homeostasis. So
Hmm.
it's doing all the time. It wants to be in that state. It likes mundane. Our bodies like mundane. And also to trust that we will do the best that we can do with the resources that we have
Hmm.
in that moment. And that's actually what, you know, in trauma work, what you often explore with someone is that even in those past traumas, they were doing the best they could with
Hmm.
the resources that they had at the time.
And so, some of the thoughts you hear from people who are survivors of trauma, what kind of thoughts do you hear that you might have someone pay more attention to them,
Mhm.
and even maybe tweak them a little bit?
Mhm. Yeah, I think again, one of the biggest ones is the self-blame.
Yeah.
I should have done this differently. It's my fault. So, and so the exploration around thoughts like that, and in a purely mindfulness practice, you would just have someone notice that thought and
Hmm.
practice, recognizing, what happens to the body when a thought like that emerges, and a practice of letting go of the thought. So there's not a lot of direct like shifting
Okay.
of the thought specifically in the
Hmm.
mindfulness. Um, but I do also, trained and certified in other more direct cognitive processes for trauma. And so, with a self-blame thought like that, it is an attempt to have control
Hmm.
over an event like that. And so they are sort of trying to find ways that they could have possibly had control in that
Yeah.
moment.
I mean, there's some comfort in that thought. If they might not be right, if I had only done this,
Done this.
then this wouldn't
Yeah,
have happened. But
yeah.
that could make somebody feel safer because in the future, hey, if you only do this,
Hmm.
then this isn't going to happen. So there's some comfort even in that thought,
Yeah.
potentially, but also than the guilt, the regret that you didn't do it,
Mm-hmm.
which may or may not be helping the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. So in mindfulness practice and in any intervention I'm doing with folks who've experienced trauma, I'm building in a lot of self-compassion to
Hmm.
really recognize their again, that they did the best that they could with the resources that they had at the time, and to do a lot of acceptance work
Hmm.
with what did happen. Of course,
Hmm.
they wish it could have happened differently. Can they allow that experience happen, not because it was good or bad, but it doesn't also have to define their whole life.
Hmm.
Um, and so self-compassion is really one of the most beautiful gifts, I think, from mindfulness work. The word compassion really means to be with someone in their suffering. And so
Hmm.
how can we just not necessarily have to fix or change or make anything go away, but instead
Hmm.
just be with each other and be with
Hmm.
oneself um,
Hmm.
through these hard, painful, and even traumatic times. I
Hmm.
often have people do self-compassion exercises where they're imagining talking to themselves in the way that they would talk to a friend,
Hmm.
talk to a child that they care about, something like that.
And so with mindfulness, a lot of it is um, recognizing what's happening physiologically, recognizing what's happening cognitively, and then practicing acceptance, compassion and acceptance.
Yep, yep, put it into a nutshell. You
Wonderful.
starting with the awareness, you know, thoughts are here, emotions are here, sensations, this is happening in my sensory experience.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's so much available to us all the time that we're
Uh-huh.
missing out on because we're sort of stuck in our heads and
Well,
evaluating.
and not even just missing out on it, but we're desperately trying to flee it. Get this thought
Yeah.
away from me. Get this experience away from me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, if, we go back to this concept of even the mundane, right? Boredom can feel scary and feel like something to have to.
I do not relate to that statement.
And so, and so there is this power, right, in being able to just sit and be.
Hmm.
One of my favorite documentaries is called Walk With Me, and it's about Thich Nhat Hanh, who's one of the a prolific um, meditation mindfulness teacher practitioner. He was a Buddhist monk who really came into prominence during the Vietnam War and
Hmm.
talking about mindfulness practice and really peacemaking practices in the context of the violence that was surrounding him at the time. And so there's a film that was made about him in the monastery that he lived in France. And it was recent, so he was older at the time. And you see him just sitting still and quiet forever. It's a really elongated scene. And there's a young monk sitting behind him, probably in his 20s, and he's a young guy. And I mean, he cannot sit still. He's like itching and kind of squirming. And what I loved about that scene is that, for most of us, we're sort of pulling in this practice, maybe daily or weekly. But here's someone who's dedicated their life to this practice, to really allowing the mundane, to allow the stillness, allow the quiet. And
Hmm.
he is just squirming. And so it is a practice.
Hmm.
It is just a commitment to really allowing a moment to be just what it is.
Yes. Just be.
Just be. I think that could be joy. And that could
Hmm.
be sorrow at the same
Hmm.
time. That could be numbness. That could
Hmm.
be longing, right? And just being curious, not observing.
It makes me think my favorite Buddhist phrase, if it is a
Mhm.
Buddhist phrase,
Mm.
it's in my little Buddha book.
Yeah.
But it's life is so hard. How
Mm.
can you be anything but kind?
Mhm.
And when I think of that phrase, I think of, being kind to others, of course, but also being kind to self, which you're reminding me of that
Mhm.
phrase now when you talk about self-compassion, compassion with yourself, with your feelings, with your thoughts, just accepting them.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, a trauma that something that person went through was very hard,
Mhm.
and their experience of it, their survival of it, their existence after it, components of it are also hard. And you're allowing them to be kind to themselves about every aspect of it, but be present in the current moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Be
And that's
kind.
not easy to do,
No.
right? And so it's an invitation over and over
Mm-hmm.
toward kindness, towards nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different way of relating to these scary feelings.
Yeah.
And so rather than avoiding them or being angry or wishing they would go away, the invitation, just like the Rumi poem, welcome and entertain them all, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's a crown of sorrows.
Mm-hmm.
So just welcoming it in, and what people discover is, oh, I can actually build a fortitude,
Mm-hmm.
build a capacity to sit and stay with these really hard spaces, and it goes away. So
Uh-huh.
that they don't just stay stuck there. It actually does shift and move when I move toward it,
Mm-hmm.
moving away from it.
Yeah, it is one of the things that is such an interesting concept about being human.
Mhm.
We have the capacity for incredibly strong emotions and
Right.
thoughts.
Mhm.
And with the emotions, we think if we're experiencing something very, very intense, it's hard to imagine that that feeling will ever go away or that we'll forget it. You
Mhm.
cannot hold on to it. You can try, but you
Mhm.
cannot hold on to it. It's amazing the way we're wired. We can't hold on to it, even if we're trying. And there's some relief in that.
Mhm.
You can't hold on to even the most joyful moments, but you can't
Mhm.
hold on to the most painful ones either.
Absolutely.
It goes back to the mundane.
Yes. Right. I mean, really, because behind the scenes, all of our systems are working toward, like I said, that homeostasis.
Hmm.
So, that's not just in the body, right? That's a cognitive experience.
Right. We're wired in to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good, right? I mean, it's good to learn, but it's also good to be settled in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. Where could someone go if somebody's looking for a mind-body intervention or mindfulness training?
Mhm.
Where might they go to find it?
Yeah. So, wherever you are, you can certainly, there's so many on-ramps. There's the in-person looking for a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. Those are
Hmm.
typically about 8 weeks, once a week, 2 hours. So you can look specifically for a course.
Just
Um,
Google it.
Google it.
Okay.
The world at your fingertips. And there's online courses, right, that people could sit and participate, online. Um, if folks are interested in reading about it, I often recommend just sort of trying to wrap your head around it if this is totally brand new to you through Thich Nhat Hanh. He has a book called Pieces Every Step.
Hmm.
They're just a bunch of short chapters, but it's really a nice way to sort of get exposed to this idea.
Uh-huh.
And then if you're interested in actually learning more about mindfulness-based stress reduction itself, John Kabat-Zinn has a book called Full Catastrophe Living,
Uh-huh.
Living the Full Catastrophe, what we're all doing.
Hmm.
And then a therapists who either, incorporate mind body and mindfulness-based intervention. There's mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. That's often used for depression. So it is targeting thoughts a little more directly. I think yoga teaching and yoga practice, it really pulls in a lot of that somatic work. And I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed a lot of therapists also will talk not specifically about mindfulness, but about somatic. That might be listed on their list of things that they're doing is somatic awareness.
Okay.
And then, if people want to just YouTube and kind of sit and practice with a meditation teacher via YouTube. There's a person named Tara Brach, Brach, and she is a wonderful mindfulness meditation teacher and has a lot of different recordings on sitting with pain, just sitting and practicing being. But she's a really good teacher if you want to kind of wrap your head around this. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then there's the app,
Mhm.
Insight Timer, free. Calm has a lot of free options. Headspace, you have to pay for, but there's different options depending on if you're a student or if you're in healthcare.
Mhm. So it is accessible.
So many different options. Yeah, the
Excellent.
one that might be most tricky for folks is finding an actual course, the mindfulness-based stress reduction course locally,
Hmm.
just depending on where they live.
Okay.
But online courses are certainly available, but they might cost. So it depends on what folks can do. And so there certainly are the free options of just practicing with uh, you know, getting introduced to it through YouTube practitioners, for example. Like
And
that.
I'm sorry, you do a lot of research on this, so there's evidence. I should, I don't know why we didn't talk about this, but it's very important. There's
Mhm.
evidence that it works. It's not just
Oh yeah.
calming the body. This is calming the body in order to
Oh yeah.
heal.
Oh
And
yeah.
so
I mean,
can you speak to some of that evidence?
oh yeah. There's evidence for post-traumatic stress symptoms
Hmm.
in effectively reducing the symptoms that persist after
Yeah.
a traumatic event. There is evidence for being effective with depression, with anxiety, with chronic pain. So it has a lot of application and it's really been studied really thoroughly. I think for folks who re, um, really want to um, enter into this work, it isn't easy.
Hmm.
It really does take a commitment. And, I've had patients say meditation and medication is the way I heal. And so there's a lot of, adding this to your repertoire
Okay.
of various things that you're doing for your healing.
And it
It's,
will take effort and it will take time and it will take practice.
yeah, yes. So that's part of what the evidence shows is that folks who really are practicing more, folks who are really finding different ways to incorporate, increase their dose, their practice, it has more of an impact.
Um, as someone who studies resistance, I know there are plenty of people who will hear you talking about mindfulness and they will think, "Oh, I am in. That sounds wonderful. I would love to learn a little bit more about that." And then I know there are people who will hear anything about mindfulness and they'll go,
Run for the door.
yeah, 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 that it's not for them. Can you speak a little bit to them and suggest why they might reconsider? They don't have to try it, but just reconsider whether it's an option for them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to know that this type of observation is a choice.
Hmm.
And it's rightfully so, especially when you're first starting, really scary, maybe even confusing. Why would I just sit here? Why would I just practice being?
Hmm.
The practice itself ends up speaking for itself. But I've sat with, I can't countless people over the years who often say, like, after week 2, I was just planning on getting out of here. Like, what's the point of this? And then
Hmm.
after a couple more weeks of just sort of, you know, being willing to do it, but sort of, like you said, um, feeling restrained or not being able to fully commit to it, the practice starts to show up. And so one way I describe it is that you can treat the practice like, sewing a parachute
Hmm.
every time you're practicing. And then when you actually need it, when you
Hmm.
need the practice to show up for you, it's going to hold you. And that always ends up really surprising people.
Hmm.
Um, it surprises people that they can stay with the body, stay with the breath, to
Hmm.
learn to talk to themselves in more helpful ways. It really is, it surprises people. And I'm telling you, I have worked with veterans with chronic pain. I've worked with older adults with loved ones with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And
Hmm.
this is just working clinically. This is all research. Um, and over, it's a lot of sort of the curmudgeon at first, and then blossoms, the lotus blossoming out of the mud. It's a process of discovery, and you can always go back to it. Um, One person said, "I hate the phrase 'it is what it is,' but it is, isn't it?"
Hmm.
And I often quote her.
Hmm.
This is just a showing up to life, just as it is.
Yeah. It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
It reminds me in some way of what people might learn in martial arts, the practice of some sort of martial arts. And so for those who might not want to embrace the idea of mindfulness, that sounds not up their lane. Any sort of practice of mindfulness would be very beneficial for anything you're learning in martial arts and vice versa. There are some parallels there.
Oh, absolutely. Um, and we often in the teaching refer to Aikido practice. And it's really about maintaining one's connection to the universe, not breaking it, right? By being present, being aware. Um, and rather than saying something like mindfulness, it's really about feeling where you are
Hmm.
and engaging creatively with your environment. So actually, I don't really even say mindfulness anymore because people have so many preconceived notions of what it
Hmm.
is. So I often talk about, feeling where you are, and an
Okay.
invitation to do that, and all the ways that can help you.
You're going to rename it.
I know. Well, no, I won't take that on.
I can't help sitting here looking at you and talking to you. I just have this memory of you talking in a project you and I worked on together.
Mhm,
You talked to an older gentleman who was suicidal
mhm,
and a curmudgeon,
mhm.
very, 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 very agitated, upset, grumpy older gentleman. And you came and talked to me afterwards, and you said, I did not help him. I did not get him to treatment. He doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to talk to any of us ever again. And then he called another member of our team and he said, she got me thinking. She really got me thinking. And then he did embrace treatment. And I can't interact with you without remembering that
Good
experience.
memory.
That experience, because you were absolutely convinced that you weren't helpful with him and you didn't connect with him.
Yeah.
That wasn't his experience at all. He did connect with you. You were
Mm,
probably, very you and there. You joined him in his suffering moment. You experienced that with him. That was so impactful to him
mm, mm.
that it changed his perception of seeking help, and it was just a really awesome experience. And I that contradiction always stuck with me because you both came to me and said, that did not work, and that worked. It was
Wow.
really wonderful.
Thanks for sharing that, Tracy. I mean, isn't it so powerful also for us as providers where we don't necessarily know our impact? We
Absolutely.
think, hey, that went great. And then the other person saying that was horrible. Or hey, that didn't get through at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so our job, whether you're in any realm of this practice and this work, is to just show up to it. We
Mhm.
don't, right? We're just shooting our arrow. We don't know where it's actually going to land.
Yeah. But because you were there, you were there with him in that moment that was impactful.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you being here with me today. It's always wonderful to talk with you. Slow down my own breathing.
Oh, it's great to see you, Tracy.
You too.
Thank you for
You too.
asking.
We'll have to have you back on. We'll have a part two.
Sounds good.
So for is there any last words you want to say?
Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. Life is so hard. Why
Mhm.
be anything but kind?
Mhm.
And it's mostly mundane.
Yeah, it's mostly for better and for worse.
Well, thank you for joining us today at Choosing Help. And if you want more information, you can go to our website at choosinghelp.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Behavioral health professionals bring something extraordinary into the world: empathy, expertise, and a steadfast dedication to healing. But this calling isn't easy. It demands more than compassion. It requires continuous learning, staying current with research, refining clinical skills, and building resilience together. That's why we created Hatherleigh. Hatherleigh is a lifelong learning, peer education, and connection platform designed exclusively for behavioral health professionals like you. Psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, social workers, psychiatric nurses, addiction specialists. For over 40 years, we've been a trusted partner in your professional journey, delivering innovative, integrated, and accessible continuing education, backed by the community, free from commercial influence. Whether you're seeking to expand your knowledge, earn CE or CME credits, or engage with fellow professionals across disciplines, Hatherleigh is here for lifelong learning, for peer connection, for professional growth. Hatherleigh, let's shape the future of mental health together.